Am I the jerk for calling my wife a bully, knowing it would trigger her? Context: I'm a 36-year-old male and work as a bus driver. I've been doing the same route for about 5 years, and I've gotten to know my regulars pretty well, to the point where I'd consider most of us friends. I enjoy my job, and socializing comes easily to me. My wife, 36, works in an office and drives, so she's never really met any of my regular passengers. So I've been married for about 5 years now, and we've got 2 little kids, 4 and 1. And every few weeks we do the big shop, where we go out to the big ASDA, which is like Walmart for you Americans. Everything was fine, and we were getting through the list with the kids sat in the trolley when I hear my wife make a noise of disgust, and I look up to follow her gaze and see one of my regulars getting her own shopping done. Let's call her Elle. Elle is a goth. Very monochrome color scheme, always in black velvet and lace, black lipstick, powdered white face, some visible tattoos, the works. But she's a lovely girl, very sweet, and works as a sign language interpreter at a local secondary school. She's involved with the age concern in her spare time and working towards a PhD. All around a very nice young lady. My wife launches into a snarky tirade about her appearance. "Look at that. Why would you choose to look like that? Just asking for attention, then probably complains she can't get a job. She looks like a witch. It's creepy. Wouldn't want that in any place of work, probably on substances." Among other things. I told her to stop that, as she was being very rude and judgmental. But she kept going and saying increasingly worse things about Elle, not even toning down her vitriol in front of the kids. I did point out that she was the same Elle that sent us congratulations cards when we had our kids, but to be honest, even if I didn't know Elle at all, I probably would have done the same thing. I want to raise my 2 kids better than I was, and that includes making sure they know it's okay to be different. I need to divert to do some explaining here. I'll be honest, I wasn't the best guy when I was younger, and if I'd seen Elle when I was in school, I probably would have made fun of her too. But we're all adults here, and I think it's time we left that attitude behind us. Even if I didn't know Elle, I'd think that sort of talk was inappropriate, especially as my oldest is very impressionable and due to start school in September, and I don't want him thinking that's an acceptable way to behave. My wife was bullied severely during her teen years, and she's told me how much of an impact it has to this day. From what she's told me, it was mass shunning and painful jabs at her appearance or interests, or anything she did. I do regret how I behaved when I was a kid. It can be difficult to not get caught up in the bully chain when there are seemingly no consequences. But to be honest, I wish someone had called me out when I was younger. I was not the worst of them by far, but joining in was definitely a jerk move, and I've apologized where I can. My wife has been to counseling a few times, but the mental health service in the UK is pretty subpar, so I'm not sure how well they've worked. Eventually, I just told her to shut up and stop acting like the same bullies that made her life hell when she was in school. She shut up quick. She hasn't spoken to me since, and I got an angry text from my sister-in-law telling me I hurt my wife beyond words. And how dare I compare her to her school bullies who traumatized her so badly as a teenager. I've tried explaining my side and how I want to set a good example for the kids, and also that Elle was a friend of mine who had given us cards when we had both our children, but neither of them will listen, and I'm thinking I might have gone too far. I wasn't thinking in the moment and just wanted to end the conversation, but once she comes around, I can hopefully ask how she'd feel if she knew someone talked that way about her. She isn't a bad person, and we live in a very judgmental world that's not so easily ignored. Sister-in-law is well known for being quite loud and overprotective, so it's not all too surprising. But yes, to be honest, I wish she'd butt out sometimes. In short, my wife went off on a spiteful, judgmental rant about the appearance of someone she doesn't know, and I called her a bully, knowing her painful history with bullying. Well, you were in the right, but it sounds like maybe you could have handled it better. I'd say your instincts were well-founded. What your wife was doing was wrong, and the example she was setting for the kids was terrible, and you were right to tell her so. But it does seem like maybe you used a method that you knew would really affect her, and maybe that was what she needed to think about, but it could have been done more gently or after the fact. And while teaching your kids not to bully is absolutely vitally important, so is not demeaning and villainizing your wife in front of them. None of this is to say that our viewers should think that the narrator is more on the wife's side. I think the author here is trying to do the right thing for everyone, and unfortunately he let his temper get the better of him. Perhaps just going up and interacting with the girl who was the subject of scrutiny might have provided the kids with a better example of the fact that this is a normal person with feelings. Hopefully, the author can apologize to his wife and come to a better understanding of why not to do this going forward, and she's open to the talk. If not, then yeah, she's kinda the villain here. Wife forced to give extra credit, assigns it to parents. My wife teaches a lovely group of kids in an area where parents are incredibly strict. The children are almost all operating within the A grade range, and their parents overwork them to ensure the A+. Anyways, the new school year has some parents pestering my wife for extra credit assignments. She's insisted that it's optional for her to assign extra credit, and they've raised the issue up through administration to force her hand. Another teacher, who teaches the same class, gives loads of extra credit and they want their children to be on an even level. With the news that she'd have to match the amount of given extra credit opportunities, she's decided to involve the children's parents. Examples: 5-page handwritten and legible essays about a historic event the parents were a part of. A 20-minute video interview of their opinions and experiences about certain political events while growing up. Her extra credit is just many different little assignments that take lots of time from the parents' day for an extra couple of points for the next exam. While she continues to assign these extra credit assignments, the participation rate has been 0. Very cunning and clever. If this keeps getting the parents to not participate, then eventually the author can cancel due to a lack of attendance and interest. I'm not sure the parents count as jerks for wanting to get their kids ahead. It depends how hard they're really pushing them, which would decide that. Sadly, as usual, a lot of this probably falls on the education system for overworking their teachers, not compensating them for the extra effort, and pressuring them to do more when the parents come calling. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, linked below. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Keep your woman in line. So this is about my neighbor. My girlfriend and me live in a building with many apartments. Although our apartment isn't that big, it has a huge balcony. And since the current heat wave, we practically live on our balcony. Our next-door neighbor's balcony is directly next to ours. There's about a 50-centimeter gap between them. Next door lives a family. The husband seems fine. He works a lot, he greets me in the hallway, and he doesn't call the cops and landlord when people are too loud. He talks to them first. Good man. His wife is the complete opposite. She's a complete stay-at-home mombi, spelt like zombie but with an M. Her kids are okay, I guess. She has a daughter in elementary school and a boy in like 7th or 8th grade. Yeah, so I never really had problems with this family until this week. My girlfriend adores our balcony, because we haven't had one in our old place. We lived together in my first place. It was a crappy cellar with a bathroom and a kitchen. She grows flowers, tomatoes and strawberries on our balcony, and she enjoys sunbathing. So because it's really hot and sunny right now, she sunbathes a lot. And she does that in a bikini. And well, she opens up her bikini top when laying on her stomach, never when on her back because our other neighbor is kind of an old creep. Well, he isn't a perv, but he likes to watch people, not just us. In Germany, it's a cultural thing, and middle-class families tend to be kind of nosy. It's a stereotype here. And to be honest, I only like the normal neighbors, the ones who mind their business and maybe knock at your door when they accept a package for you. In Germany, we don't have porch pirates. Delivery men can give it to a neighbor when you aren't home. So, some days ago, I came back from my shift at the hospital, and I met my mombi neighbor in the hallway. It started with the usual small talk, but then it shifted. She asked me to get my girlfriend in line, because she's exposing herself, and her son is distracted. I shrugged it off and got past her. After nearly 10 hours of fighting the stupidity of people in the ER, I wasn't in the mood for her crap. So my girlfriend is maybe giving her son ideas, or something like that. I didn't really pay attention to her, but I guess he saw her back? How alluring, ugh. I then told my girlfriend, and she was just laughing about it. She told me that, yeah, the son is watching her when she was on the balcony and she didn't think much of it. Well, I took my neighbor's advice. My brother is a carpenter, so I asked if he could build a screen for me. A big plate which prevents my neighbors from looking at my balcony. He said yes, and I picked them up yesterday and installed them. And well, today I was talking to my neighbor from the other side, the creep, and he said he'd been talking to the mombi and she seemed annoyed that I put the screening up because it's not very neighbor-friendly and that I'm rude. Well, lady, you chose. If you can't control your kid, I will gladly take this burden off you. Her husband is completely okay with it. He told me that his wife was too nosy anyway, and that maybe she was just jealous of my girlfriend, and that he's talking to his son about respecting women. I'm mostly asking myself why he's married to her, but well, love has mysterious paths. Or, I don't know, maybe he knocked her up. She plays nice in front of all the neighbors and tries to force a friendship with them. Even the creep doesn't really like her. She's just a bored and snoopy woman with too much time. No big explosion or anything, just a momby Karen who thinks my girlfriend has to dress like a nun because her 13-year-old son hit puberty. If they find a way to spy again, I'll build the screens higher than heaven and deeper than hell. I love privacy and I hate nosy people. Okay, I never thought this would get so much attention. I kind of have a minor update which isn't worth its own post. The momby apologized to me and my girlfriend. Yep, it was half-assed, and yes, her husband made her do it, but I book that as a huge win. So I'm now enjoying privacy on my own balcony. And for the people who suggested passionately hugging each other on our balcony to annoy our neighbor, we're thinking about it. Yep, this sounds like certain HOA and cranky neighbor posts that we've done from time to time here on the channel. This probably could have been avoided if you didn't have such a wealth of seemingly bored people in your immediate apartment complex. Loneliness, spare time, a heat wave, and a teenage son are probably a pretty volatile cocktail to deal with at the best of times. Sounds like the solution has been found. Tell the kid to respect women, tell girlfriend to continue doing whatever she wants in the space of our own home as long as she isn't publicly throwing objects and insults at passers-by. The neighbor woman's misogyny may not have been dealt with, meaning that we might have no choice but to label her the villain of this tale, but there's hope for her if she's surrounded by family and neighbors that have more enlightened and modern perspectives. We can only hope. Might help her social life a little too. Nothing beats scummy landlords during COVID shutdown. I hated my old apartment and needed desperately to get out, and right when I was looking for rentals last year, coronavirus hit and everyone shut down. With less than a week on my lease, I had to jump at the first available home. Didn't even get to inspect it. I ended up with equally horrible property managers. I didn't have a key on day one and I had to break in to move in. They didn't tell me about the German roach infestation and so forth. It's okay, I used to do pest control so I managed. Right when I lost power during Christmas, also okay, I live in the south and it didn't get too cold, I tracked down the original property owner and asked her if I could get out of the contract and just pay her directly. We investigated many options, and the best way to get out of the contract was just to pay for the last remaining months and write a 30-day notice. They call me and tell me that I have to write them a notice, signed and sent and received on the exact date, 30 days from the lease's end, to be accepted, or I'll lose my $1,000 security deposit. They really stressed it had to be mailed and definitely on time, or they won't be able to accept it. I read my lease all the way through to figure it out and was ready to hand deliver it to them, but they said because of COVID, they won't allow visitors. So I asked if I could just push it through their mail slot on the front door, and they continued to deny me. And that's when it felt fishy. My theory is that while USPS is not working at full capacity, there's a good chance my mail could be delayed, giving them the sweet, easy jackpot. Cue my pettiness. I wrote a template letter with a generic, "This is a number of days till end of lease. Notice. I'm writing to terminate my contract and to receive my security deposit as stated." I sent one out on my 103-day notice. Then another one on my 89-day notice. Then another one on 73 days notice, and so on and so forth. Basically, whenever I remembered about it, I would change the date around, print it, sign it, and then mail it. They called me to say that this was unnecessary, and that they got my message loud and clear. But they sounded pretty rude about it, so I sent them some more. I then received some passive-aggressive emails that they will honor the contract and leave me the $1,000 deposit as I've sent them a 30-day notice. But they can be tricky, and as I haven't technically sent them an exact 30 days notice, I have some more letters to send. Plus again, they sounded pretty rude over the email. Cue the final 15-day countdown till my 30 days notice letter. I upped the ante. I now have one letter per day to send, and I've changed the fonts on each letter ranging from Papyrus to Jokerman to Comic Sans. My favorite one is the one where it's all bright yellow and barely legible. It hurts just looking at it. Oh, and better yet, I got the last batch sent as certified mail, so I get an email that they received it and that they had to sign it. On my 34th day notice letter, now probably the 20th letter I've mailed, I received my cashier's check back. No message or anything. Fortunately, I have 4 more letters to send. The best $43 on stamps I've ever paid. In short, I spammed the lease office with 30-day notices until they gave up on holding on to my security deposit. I mean, if you've got to be sure, this is a terrific way to do it. Also, you 100% can't trust landlords that are this specific about the ways and means that the conditions of you getting your deposit back are reliant upon. In the grand summary of cases of landlords versus tenants, it's almost always the landlords that go on the jerk pile, although exceptions do exist. This is the reason we take pictures and videos of the apartments we rent, and why we get paperwork for everything. Because if we don't, they'll take literally any excuse to keep it. Look people, maybe you're lucky enough to have good landlords, but too many of us have been wheedled out of our money by owners who seem decent and honest and then pull the rug out from under us at the last second. So yeah, I'm entirely with the author here. If they show even the slightest shifty signs, pull out everything you have and rain the stuff down on them so they have no excuse not to give you your hard-earned cash back. Get in, losers, we're complying maliciously. We all do stupid stuff in our 20s. Well, for me, it was moving into a shoddy apartment with my fellow mental health risk friend. We were both well aware that we may have to break lease at some point, so we found an apartment that was just barely within price range and had the option to break the lease early. It was okay at first. There was linoleum peeling up in the bathroom, and if we didn't wipe down the windowsills, and particularly the far corner ceiling of my bedroom, then we would get mold. But this is Oregon, and as a food stamp family, as I was called in school, I'm familiar with mold, no biggie. Then our washer, which we were paying an extra $100 a month to have in our unit, started leaking. We put in a maintenance request and tack on the peeling linoleum as well, since there'd already be in our unit to fix the washer. They patched up the washer and did a half-assed job repairing the patch of linoleum. A month later, the linoleum, since they'd not actually fixed the underlying problem of the peeling stuff, had come up again. The corner of it actually sliced my foot open, and the bathroom sink, washer, and dishwasher all had problems of one kind or another. They came in again, said that if we wanted them to fix that patch again, it'd cost $450 to replace the whole floor. The patch was like a 2-foot square, so we just never went for that option. 2 months, 3 hospital trips for my ex-roommate, a still broken dishwasher that was unusable, a leaky washer, and a close call later. My roommate has postural tachycardia syndrome and fell down the stairs. We put in a request for accommodation to be released to our respective parents on the grounds of mental and physical disability. They denied the request, simply offering to move us to a downstairs apartment. They don't want to let us out of this lease, even though my roommate had attempted self-deletion twice and almost cracked her head on the stairs? Fine. Malicious compliance incoming. I went through the lease agreements to figure out how much it would cost to break the lease. And I quote, "Fee to break this lease is $1.50, or 1.5 times the rent if this slot is left blank." So someone either messed up the paperwork or figured that no one would read it. So I put in a 30-day notice of intent to move out, with $1.50 worth of quarters in the envelope. The aftermath was they tried to tell us that we couldn't move out because it was meant to be 1.5 times rent and not $1.50. Threatened us with lawyers. I called their bluff and suggested they reread their part of the lease agreement that they signed. I paid my half of the repairs and I haven't heard from them in about 3 months. I'm still keeping all the emails and such in case I get a letter from a lawyer. I still have zero intentions to pay that 1.5 times rent. In short, scummy apartment tried to bully low-income people out of money when they needed to break the lease. They didn't proofread their own lease agreement before signing and got 6 quarters instead of 2.5 grand. Yeah. Our rent was $1,625. Welcome to Oregon, where more people are leaving than moving in, but the rent still keeps going up. Well, lucky narrator, the story I do right after I talked about how scummy landlords can be gives us a much more concrete example of just how bad some of them can get. This is, admittedly, a pretty extreme example. I'm not even sure the worst and most exploitative ones would want to keep a clearly mentally ill and at-risk person there against their will, even if that would be mostly motivated by their own self-interest rather than genuine care. The landlords are undoubtedly very cruel and negligent for letting things go this far. Luckily for our author, their negligence actually extended to their attitude to the contract they'd written. Ultimately, I'm sure that the owners probably did the bare minimum to conceal the flaws in the apartments and just re-rented it to some equally desperate people and accepted the loss. More's the shame, Well done on getting out of there. Hope your friend is doing better these days. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. Put the playlist on in the background to finish listening to all the stories. Or if you want to check out some great music, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, give Am I the Genius a shot. Everything linked in the description.